everyone. I just want to finish talking to you about this poem and see why you check your answers with mine and see how you did. Four other oysters followed them, and yet another four. And thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. See that alliteration? Repeating the M sound. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock, conveniently low. And all the little oysters stood and waited in a row. Okay, so the walrus can't really walk, that's personification, and oysters can't stand and wait. That's personification. And if you look at this picture of a walrus, you can see that walruses can't really walk. "The time has come," the walrus said, "to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings." What kind of a character is the walrus? Well, he is strange. Why would he want to talk about pigs having wings? I don't know. Is he trying to distract those oysters or what? "But wait a bit," the oysters cried, "before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath, and all of us are fat." "No hurry," said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that. So again, that's personification. Oysters cannot talk, okay? "A loaf of bread," the walrus said, "is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed." Okay, so again, a walrus can't talk. That's personification. And I think this is a little bit of foreshadowing. If the walrus needs this pepper and vinegar, kind of wondering if he's going to eat those oysters. "But not on us," the oysters cried, turning a little blue. "After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do." "The night is fine," the walrus said. "Do you admire the view?" "It was very kind of you to come, and you are very nice." The carpenter said nothing, but "Cut us another slice. Oh, you wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice." "It seems a shame," the walrus said, "to play them such a trick, after we brought them out so far and made them trot so quick." The carpenter said nothing, but "The butter's spread too thick." So again, this foreshadowing is that if they're spreading butter on bread, really seems like maybe these oysters are going to get eaten. "I weep for you," the walrus said. "I deeply sympathize." With sobs and tears, he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. Again, walruses don't really talk and they don't really cry. And does the walrus really feel bad about what's happening to these oysters? I don't think so. I think he's just hungry and he's been plotting it the whole time. "Oh, oysters," said the carpenter, "you've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again?" But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd because they'd eaten every one. So trotting is an example of onomatopoeia. The word trot, sometimes it's associated with like horses, but it gives you that sense of movement. So who ate the oysters? I think this stanza is pretty confusing because it kind of sounds like the walrus ate them all, and the carpenter, because the carpenter's like, let's go back. But then they say they'd eaten everyone. So the Walt Disney video interpreted this a different way, but the bottom line is the oysters were eaten and they were tricked, right? Okay, so then we talk about mood and tone. The attitude of the writer is Lewis Carroll's just kind of trying to tell people like a silly story about be careful who you trust, right? And this story kind of makes me smile just because it's silly. It's a silly tale. And it's a narrative poem because it tells a story. So I think a big idea of this poem is trust. You can see this. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. So the eldest oyster is smart. He doesn't trust the walrus and the carpenter, and he goes back to sleep instead. But in this stanza, we see 4 other oysters followed them, and yet another 4, and thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. So the younger oysters are willing to go with the walrus and the carpenter. They trust them. And here I have, "It seems a shame," the walrus said, "to play them such a trick, after we have brought them out so far, and made them trot so quick." The carpenter said nothing, but "The butter's spread too thick." So the walrus and the carpenter don't feel badly enough not to eat the oysters, and it's a little hard to tell how much they've been plotting this and how much was spur of the moment. But the bottom line is they tricked those oysters and ate them. So I feel that the theme is be careful who you trust. They may want to eat you is just kind of silly, but basically the message is be careful who you trust. Sometimes people, and I think it's also saying sometimes people are characters who are older and wiser make better decisions about who they trust, just like the old oyster chose not to trust the walrus and the carpenter. Okay, I hope that helps you understand this poem. It's just kind of a silly poem that has a message of be careful who you trust. Okay, everyone, that's it.